Why did paintings and mirrors in Soviet flats and institutions often hang at a strange angle? It seems like a small thing, but if you look closely, it is very strange. Almost every person who lived in the USSR has such memories. You enter a room and a painting hangs crookedly, or the mirror is not straight but as if tilted on purpose. And it was not just one or two people, it was everywhere, in flats, schools, children's camps, hotels. At first glance, it may seem that the matter is in a hurry, in shortages, in crooked walls. They just hammered a nail and hung it up as it turned out. But if everything was so simple, why was this slope met even where professional finishers worked? Why were paintings hung at an angle even in new buildings in hotels, where everything was checked according to GOST? Legends and conjectures as to why paintings and mirrors were often hung tilted in Soviet homes were many, and each one strange in its own way. One of the most widespread versions is against the evil eye. Yes, seriously, many grandmothers said, if the mirror hangs straight, can pull on themselves other people's envy. But if it's at an angle, it reflects all the bad things back. They called it an energy shield. It was especially practiced in villages and on the outskirts. A mirror above the entrance, turned slightly to the side, supposedly cleans the aura. This was believed in, and it was passed down from generation to generation. There were other explanations. Someone said, they hung it that way because there was only one nail left. Someone said, it's better to see the light from the window. But the strange thing is that all these conjectures were not explained for some reason. Crooked mirrors were found even in the elite flats of the party top brass. In the 60s, in the homes of some high-ranking party members, mirrors were deliberately hung at a slant, not for beauty or the evil eye, but as a political symbol, supposedly a sign of special thinking. A mirror is like a reflection of the world, and the world is changing, and a Soviet man must think outside the box. It sounds beautiful. But why would an ordinary person hang a crooked mirror in the corridor? Some believed that this way the reflection looks younger, especially in old, slightly distorted mirrors. And someone was sure that tilting it helps to see more. For example, what's going on in the room behind you? Surprisingly, there were dozens of such everyday explanations. Someone said that if at home the mirror hangs at an incline, that way there will be fewer scandals in the house. No scientific evidence, just Soviet household mysticism. In the USSR, people often sought explanations for strange things through mysticism and symbolism because they did not know and could not ask the truth openly. Let's take a simple example. In some children's camps, the mirror in the washroom was specially installed at an angle so that the duty tutor could watch what was going on inside from the corridor. And all this was presented as care for discipline. It becomes clear in the USSR, even such small details as the angle of a painting or a mirror could not be an accident, but part of a hidden control. In some cases, paintings were deliberately tilted to make people feel anxious, a psychological technique. When people say that in the USSR people were watched everywhere, it is not an exaggeration, and it's not just about denunciations and agents. Surveillance could be conducted directly from the wall, through a mirror or even a painting, often at an oblique angle. Why would they do that? It's simple. At an angle, a mirror or a painting can better catch reflections and sound. It's not mysticism, it's a technique, and well thought out. Such methods were especially active in tourist hotels where foreigners lived. For example, in one of Moscow Intourist in the 70s, the mirrors in the rooms stood at an incline for a reason. They had a built-in microphone. The tilt helped to pick up the voice reflected from the room. The signal went down a hidden wire to the basement where KGB officers were on duty. The entire conversation was being recorded. Why? to know in advance who was talking about what. There was a similar story in the embassies of Western countries in Moscow. They found paintings with built-in spy equipment made by the Soviets. It looks like a simple set, but inside, transmitters, wires, sometimes even mini microphones with directional sound capture. Everything was disguised as a gift, as a repair, as a decoration. But the most interesting thing is not even the devices themselves, but the systematic nature. In the archives of the KGB were found schemes with the exact angles of installation of mirrors, not by eye, not as it turns out, but by degrees. It was prescribed there at what inclination the mirror should hang to reflect the desired area. For example, a bed in a hotel or a workplace. The tilt of mirrors and paintings in the USSR was often not a mistake, but part of an elaborate surveillance system where every little detail played its role. People did not even realize that behind a seemingly uneven frame, there could be a technique capable of transmitting everything that was said to another building. Soviet psychologists have been studying since the 50s how small details in an interior can affect a person, their behavior, well-being, and even their decisions. And yes, tilted objects are on that list too. Firstly, a tilted mirror or painting puts the brain into a mild state of stress. Even if a person doesn't notice it directly, they get the feeling that something is off. A simple thing. You walk into an office, see that everything on the wall is crooked, and you feel uncomfortable. It's a small thing, but your subconscious mind senses it. This was actively used in institutions, especially where power, control, and subordination were needed. For example, in the offices of managers often hung pictures at a slant, and not because they were nailed crookedly, but because the slope symbolized moving forward, determination, and at the same time, put the interlocutor in an insecure state. It sounds strange, but it was. Even an ordinary detail like a crooked painting could be part of a system of influence on the human psyche, even if imperceptible at first glance. In some psychiatric wards of the USSR, mirrors were hung at an angle to disorient patients. A person would look at the mirror and the reflection would seem to have moved away. This increased inner insecurity, especially in those who were already in a serious condition. There was a hidden psychological pressure, without shouting, without threats, just at the expense of the interior. It would seem, what's the big deal? A mirror hangs a little crooked, or a painting at an angle. It happens. Someone will say the nail was hammered badly. Some say the wall is crooked. But now, when we have analyzed all the versions, it becomes clear. Such trifles in the USSR were often not accidental at all. The slope could mean more than just sloppiness. It could be a sign of control, surveillance, power, and even an instrument of pressure on a person. It all depended on the place and the purpose. If it was just an accident, such details would not be repeated from time to time in completely different places. So, in the USSR, even such a seemingly small thing as the tilt of a mirror could be part of a large, elaborate system. And if you are interested in what other details in Soviet interiors could hide the functions of surveillance, tracking, or pressure, write in the comments. We'll be sure to make a separate video about it.